gamepad. Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. What do you think you're looking at in figure 1.1? What do you think you're looking at?
A low pass filter. The Butterworth.
Well, what makes it a Butterworth? How do you identify this as a Butterworth? What identifies as a Butterworth other than the title saying it's a Butterworth? All right. In this figure, we have the magnitude response of a filter, the magnitude response of a low pass filter. Okay. We have gain GP. Okay. If this is Butterworth, what's a gain GP? If this is Butterworth, what is gain GP?
-3.
-3 dB. -3 dB, and corresponding to this GP is FP. Okay. What do you? Any idea what the P stands for? Any guess as to what the P stands for?
Will it be the cutoff frequency?
That's FP. That's FP, but that's not GP. The P stands for pass band. Pass band. So from this frequency, which is 0, to this frequency, which is the cutoff frequency, FP is the cutoff frequency. If this is Butterworth. GP would be -3 dB, and FP would be FC, the cutoff frequency. That's called the pass band. Okay, we're passing those frequencies in the pass band. Okay. What's FS stand for? What's FS and GS? Well, you really can't tell from this diagram. This diagram's not too good in that respect. But GS is a value a lot less than -3 dB. Okay, it can be -40 dB or -50 dB or -60 dB. That's the gain that we say the output is now 0. The output of the filter is now 0. That is the stop band gain. As you can see, from FS onwards, we can be less than GS. The gain is going to be less than GS, and GS is called the stop band gain. The stop band gain, and that's any low value we want to make it. Okay. Between FP and FS is called the transition band. The transition band, because we're not stopping frequencies, we're not passing frequencies. So that's a transition band between the pass band and the stop band. Okay. And this is Butterworth because it goes smoothly from 0 to the negative 3 dB point, and then on down to the stop band. Now, rather than that, we could have this scenario. Okay. And this is a Chebyshev filter. This is a Chebyshev filter. Again, we are passing all these frequencies in the pass band. Okay. But we're not doing it smoothly. We have what we call a ripple. We call that ripple in the pass band. And with FP, FP is no longer FP is our cutoff frequency, but is no longer at negative 3 dB. Okay. If from 0 to GP, if that's 1 dB, then we call this a 1 dB ripple Chebyshev filter. If this is 2 dB, then we call this a 3 dB ripple Chebyshev filter. Okay. So we could choose Chebyshev filter then is a family of filters, and we could choose what to make the ripple in the pass band. Now, the advantage of this is we get a really fast transition band. Okay. But the disadvantage is when we have these ripples in the pass band, that causes echoes in your audio or ghosts in your video. Okay. So there's a trade-off between the amount of ripple you could tolerate and how quickly your transition band happens. Okay. All right. So now you see the different polynomials for each of these filters. Actually, there's more than 2 filters. There are many, many, many different kinds of filters, but this author is choosing to emphasize the Butterworth and the Chebyshev because they're used quite often. Okay. I gave you this last class. First order Butterworth is 1 plus S. Again, these are normalized. These are normalized. Normalized to 1 dB. Sorry, the 1 rads per second. First order is 1 plus S. Second order is 1 plus root 2S plus S squared. I gave you that last class. And the third one, 1 plus S times 1 plus S squared. We talked about this last class. And then if we want a fourth order, it's this second order times that second order. We want a fifth order, it's this first order times the second order times the second order. Now, if we can only tolerate 0.5 dB ripple, 0.5 dB ripple, then the first order is not 1 plus S, it is 2.8628 plus S. And the second order is this polynomial here, and so on and so forth. Whereas now the 1 dB ripple, the first order 1 dB ripple is this, and the second order is this, and the third order is this times this. And same is true of the second order. I mean, this 2.0 ripple, okay, and the 3.0 ripple. Of course, these are normalized, meaning the cutoff frequencies are 1 rad per second. Okay. Now, let me take a 1 dB, 1 dB ripple. So that would be 1 dB ripple Chebyshev. So low pass filter, then this would be 1 divided by that polynomial. Okay. So this is 1 dB ripple Chebyshev. Okay. With omega C equals 1 rad per second. What do we do to this? And this is low pass response now. What do we do with this to make the cutoff frequency 10 hertz? What do we do with this transfer function? We want to cut off frequency be 10 hertz. I told you this last class, folks.
Well, since it's normalized right now, we'll have to divide F by omega C.
All right. And what's omega C? What's omega C?
In our case, omega C is 10. I believe.
In our case, what?
I believe omega C would be 10.
Really?
No.
So omega C in your mind is the same thing as FC. Omega C is the same thing as FC, Mr. Johnson. You know how many people still get that wrong? Even after we had at least 3 different assignments where you had to know the difference between omega C and FC? Mr. Johnson, please do better than that. What's omega C?
Will omega C remain at 1 rods per second?
Don't talk fool.
I don't know the value of omega C. Yeah.
A high school physics student knows the value of omega C.
You mean the 2 pi F, or are you talking about something else?
Of course I'm talking about 2 pi F. Omega is always 2 pi F. If FC is 10 hertz, then omega C is 20 pi rads per second. So, where we have S replaced with S over omega C. So this now is the transfer function of a 1 dB Chevy Chef low pass filter with FC equals 10 hertz. Let's show that in PSpice.
Oh, they got it.
Yes,
We're gonna have more assignments with PSpice this semester.
yes.
Okay.
All right. As a matter of fact, depending on how far I get today, I'm going to assign one today.
Okay.
All right. We need VAC. We need Laplace. And Laplace is just a transfer function. And we need a resistor. And we need a ground. And the value of this resistor is not that important. So there's our AC input. And the numerator is 400 times pi times pi. And the denominator, S times S plus 68.971 times S plus 43, 52.5, I believe. Check that. Yeah. Okay. So there's the transfer function. There's a transfer function we're trying to simulate without actually building the circuit. And PSpice allows you to do that. That's a powerful part there. And we need to make this one. Okay. We're expecting a cutoff frequency of 10 hertz. So we want to go down to 2 decades. So that's one and above 2 decades. So that's 1.1. So set up AC sweep from point one to 10, 100, 1,000. That's good. And we want a decade. Okay. We call this the in, and this the out. And we simulate. And let's call this Chebyshev.
Brother Godric,
Yes.
you see the circuits which you have with start out with the downward arrow, right?
Yes.
What would be the difference if the same exact file had like this the schematic little picture on the side instead of the downward arrow? Like, what would be the difference in that file? It'd be the same thing, but I see some of the downward arrow and some of like a mini picture of a graph on the side.
Yeah, you got a graph on the side.
Right. Some of mine have graphs on the side. And on my computer, they're the ones what is run. These ones don't even run. Like I'd have to get this arrow to change into like a different icon on the left hand side. Then my computer is running. You understand? You understand what I mean?
I hear what you're saying, but I never come across that.
Right.
Okay, Chebyshev low 1 dB. Okay, low pass filter.
It does. It's been a while. Sorry.
Uh, so what has happened? So let's close that. Oh, pi. It doesn't know what pi is. See my error right here? Okay. All right, so the top then becomes 400 times pi times pi. Okay. So 390, 47.8. Okay. Let's try that again. We don't need DC. And now we do dB of V out divided by V in. And there it is. All right. And let's go up to, let's go up to just 100 hertz. So let me redo that.
Dr. Cartwright, can I see what you said that to again, please? Was that 100?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there it is, 100. Yes.
All right.
Okay. I didn't copy that. I too bad. dB V out
Open bracket.
divided by Vn. Excuse me.
Oh, never mind.
I thought I did divide. Okay, there it is. But I'm going to go up to 1 dB. Just 0. Okay. Now, you can't see the pass band too well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go between 1 and 15. So I can see the pass band. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now, do you see how the cutoff rings is now defined? It's not a negative 3 dB point anymore. This is going down to 0. Okay, so we need to know this value. We need to know the ripple for low DC. So right here. So the ripple is over here is 0.806. All right, 0.806. All right. So we go up here and we look for 0.80. Let me put that there. All right. We go up here and we look for 0.806. Okay, so that's as close we can get, unless let me do that. Let me add more points. So here's 101 points. Let's do 501, see if that improves the measurement. 501, yeah. And we have to resimulate.
You should copy and paste the code on that.
Excuse me?
Then you're going to copy and paste the formula before you resimulate. Too late.
Yeah. Now you tell me. All right. dB of V out divided by V in. Okay. And we could just be able to do this. Where is the zoom? Is that it? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So down here then, okay. Yeah, it is still 806. (806 milli). So we go all the way out here, not to negative 3 dB point, but to negative 806 point. Wow, still ain't got better resolution. Okay. And you see, it is roughly 10 hertz. That's the cutoff frequency. That's how you find the cutoff frequency with Chebyshev. Okay. And then, so the minimum dB is that much. What's the maximum? Let's find the maximum. The maximum here is somewhere 152. Yeah, there's the maximum. So 152, okay, plus 806, that's roughly 1 dB. So that's showing you your dB, your ripple in the pass band, okay, it's pretty close to 1 dB. 806 plus 152. 958, 0.958. Okay. And that's how you measure the cutoff frequency. Okay. Not at negative 3 dB point, not for Chebyshev filters. And as you can see, the cutoff frequency is 10 hertz like we want it. Okay. Any questions about that?
Oh, I got it. I asked if we have having any more assignments. You said yes, we having more tests as well.
Well, I count the test as assignment.
Okay.
I mean, I will tell you whether it's going to be test or whether it's going to be assignment. The next one we're going to have is assignment.
All right.
Okay. I'll give you more incentive. I will replace your lowest assignment with this assignment if it's better than your lowest.
All right, sound good.
So that will give every one of you some drive to do a good job. Okay, now here's the problem. I showed you how we implement a first order low pass filter, right? First order low pass filter, it's easy. There's your passive filter. And then you're going to want to put a voltage follower out here. That's it. So the cutoff frequency of this, is 1 over RC. That's the cutoff frequency. Okay. So this is your first order implementation. The question becomes, how do we implement a second order filter? And you don't know. You don't even know how to do it in a passive way without using op amps. Anyway, I don't know if I have time to show you that. Certainly don't have time today, the passive. I'm just going to give you the active. This R equals that R. And this C equals this C. And this is Vn phasor. And this is V out phasor. And what does this form here? What does this form? Nobody can tell me what that circuit forms? Create from that op amp and R1 and R2.
Is it a non-inverted op amp?
It's a non-inverting op amp circuit, yes. It's just an amplifier, non-inverting amplifier. And what does a non-inverting amplifier do? What does a non-inverting amplifier do?
Amplify the change the amplify the signal, make the amplitude larger.
All right. So it just adds gain to the circuit. It just adds positive gain K. So here's the equivalent of this. So we call this figure 1. This is figure 2. And this is figure 3. And figure 3 is equivalent to figure 2. Figure 2 is actually what we actually build. But by building the op amp and the two resistors, all we're doing is adding gain to the circuit. Gain K. And what is K equal to?
One plus RF over RI.
Well, yeah, if you call that RF and we call that RI, yeah, K is 1 plus RF over RI. Yes. Now, what is the transfer function? What is the transfer function of this? This circuit, by the way, this circuit's called a Sallen key. A Sallen key after the two guys who invented it, I don't know, must be 70 years ago. Sallen key low pass filter. So a Sallen key low pass filter is just a way to implement a low pass filter. A Sallen key doesn't determine whether it's Butterworth or whether it's Chebyshev. A Sallen key would implement either one of those. Okay. So the transfer function of this circuit figure 2. It's K over R squared, C squared, divided by S squared, plus 3 minus K over RC times S plus 1 over R squared, C squared. Okay. Where this K is that K.
Does that right?
Yes?
The working you just did, is that for the silent key, low pass filter?
The silent key what?
Low pass filter, the working you just did at the bottom.
What do you call the silent key?
I believe that's what it's called.
You're not answering my question.
Or can you ask again, please?
What are you calling the silent key?
That'd be figure 2.
Yes. Figure 2, the circuit in figure 2 is called a silent key low pass filter.
And the working on the side of that is that
that's the transfer function for that circuit.
okay.
That's the transfer function for that circuit. Okay. Now, how does that help us? Okay. Here's an example.
Can I take a picture before we move on? Thank you.
All right. Design a low pass filter. A second order Butterworth low pass filter with FC equals 200 hertz. Give me step 1. Give me step 1. Nobody? Nobody knows what step 1 is?
We can start off with the formula 1 over S squared plus the square root of 2S plus 1.
And what is this?
That's the formula for the second order Butterworth.
With cutoff frequency of
200 hertz.
nonsense.
That's one round. Specific.
Yeah, one.
Yeah.
Second order Butterworth. Low pass filter with omega C equals 1 rad per second. Step 2. What's step two?
That would be the solve for omega C. So
That'd be what?
we could find for omega C. Omega C. We could find for omega C.
What do you mean we could find for omega C? We could find the value of omega C?
Yes, sir.
All right. Omega C equals how much?
400 pi.
Step three.
Step three, wherever you see X, you would divide by 400 pi.
What is this? What is that?
As the transfer function?
Of what?
Of
Of
the
a
filter?
second order Butterworth with a 200 hertz cutoff frequency.
All right. So this is what we want. That's what we want. The circuit gives us what? What does the circuit give us? That's what the circuit gives us. So how do we make what the circuit gives us? How do we make this formula into that formula? Because that's what design is. Design is a circuit will give you something, a particular formula, and you have a particular formula in mind. So how do we make equation 2 equation 1? Nobody? We look at the denominator in both equations. We look at the denominator. So clearly this got to be that, and this got to be that. And the top doesn't matter because that's just, these just differ by the value k. So we don't care about a change in gain. We care about the shape of the graph, not the gain of the graph. Okay. So this is what we do then. We make 1 over r squared that, and we make 3 minus k of rc that. So let's go ahead and do that now.
I have a question. For the numerator, was that k divided by r squared times c squared? Or was that k?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, by now you should have the maturity to show that this transfer function, you should be able to come up with this transfer function all by yourself. Just by knowing how this op-amp works. Anyway, I can push that right now. Okay. Before we got then 1 over r squared c squared equals 1.579 times 10 to the 6. So what do we do with this? What do we do with that? How do we make that happen?
Do we make RC low, really low? Much.
Oh, man, we can't make RC low. We have to make RC one particular value. What particular value is that?
Couldn't we solve for c and then assume a r value?
Yes, we'll assume a C value. So 1 over RC equals the square root. 1 over RC equals the square root of 1.579 times 10 to the 6, which is $12.57. Which, by the way, is rise per second. Okay, therefore, RC equals the reciprocal of that, 795.8 microseconds. So choose a commercial value for C, not R, C. Why? There are only a few values of C. There are infinite values for R. So, what do you want to say? Let's see. 3.1 microfarad. See what happens. 0.1 microfarad. So R then is 7958. 795.8 times 10 to the minus 6 divided by 0.1 times 10 to the minus 6 equals 7,958 ohms. So use what R value? Use what R value?
Probably like 8 kilo ohms.
Yeah, 8K.
Well, why are you guessing? I don't even know if there's 8 kilo ohms. Do you know there's 8 kilo ohm? I know there's 8.1 kilo ohm.
Yeah.
So why y'all guessing?
You know 8.1?
There isn't?
No.
Not in 5% or in 10%. It may not be in 1%, but it may be in 10%.
Oh, I normally only look for 1%.
Yeah, I know, because I usually tell you just 1%.
So in this case, we could use 1% and another percent also.
No. Let's just use 1%. Okay. Standard resistive values. Okay, let me go back to that page and you'll get.
I think it's RF cap or something.
Yeah.
Looking at it, I see the closest thing we probably use like a 8,060 ohms. That's the
So
same 806.
Huh?
Now it's saying you could use the 8,060 ohms.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 8,060 ohms. All right. Okay. You see this is 200 hertz? Did you notice that? Oh, sorry. I'm on the wrong sheet. That there, one of our axes is actually 200 hertz. Okay. All right. So that's the first thing. So now we got C and R. We got these two R values. We got these two C values. So now what's left? What's left is getting the value for RF and RI. And what's the rule for that? The rule for that is, I circled it earlier. The rule for that was 3 minus K of RC was equal to what? 1777. Right? That's what we had earlier. That equals that. Right? So solving this, 3 minus K equals 1777 times 795.8 times 10 to the minus 3, which is how much? $1.414. Therefore, K equals 3 minus 1.414, which is 1.586. Okay. Now what? That's the value K. Now what? Now what?
We already know K and R value. I mean, you gotta solve for C.
Excuse me?
It's from my observation, it looked like you already know the K and the R value. The only other value to look for is would be C.
Yo, man, you're talking fool. We know C value. We just calculated C value. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We have to calculate C.
Sorry.
Hey, well, we substitute the K value in that and just solve for it.
Substitute what K value? We have a K value. Substitute that where?
We had 3 minus K at the top, and then we solve that.
Solve what? We use this equation. We use this equation to get this equation. How can we now take this value, put it back here, and get anything? I don't think you all understand what we're trying to find. Let's go back to the circuit. What are we trying to find?
So we're trying to find RF and RI.
All right, so what's the problem? What's the problem? Folks, what is K equal to?
K is 1.586.
What else is K equal to? Exactly. K equals 1 plus RF of RI. So 1 plus RF of RI equals 1.586. So RF of RI equals 0.586. So now what are we gonna do about this?
Can we set one of the resistors to a certain value? Is that
Yes.
possible?
Let Ri be 10 kilo ohms. And RF will be how much? RF will be how much? What would be the value of RF? Will be what?
You only times in 10,000 by 0.586, so it'll be 5,800.
RF would be 5,800.
Well, y'all surprise me with the simplest stuff. All I'm asking you to do is put 10K here and solve for RF. Somebody in grade 10 can do that. So, what's the real resistor? What's the commercial value? $58.60.
The closest thing probably could be 59.
Yeah, I think that's right. $5,900. And we're done. Now, what's hard about that?
Sound like we got an assignment coming up.
Sounds right.
I gotta get them notes done.
You didn't take the notes?
No, my current. I was in the class. I was the class. My current went off, and I just came back on. I can get the notes.
Okay. All right. Any questions about that?
Y'all chose the commercial value of 59 kilo ohms, correct? Oh,
No. 5.9 kilo ohms.
ever.
All right. How do we make a high pass filter? How do we make a high pass filter? When we look at first order high pass filters, how does a high pass filter different from the low pass filter when we use the first order?
Would it be the policeman or the resistor and the capacitor?
Yes, we interchange the resistor and the capacitor. So this resistor, this capacitor, this resistor, and this capacitor, we just interchange. We just interchange. Let me get back to that a second. I want to emphasize that because the K value is here in the numerator, the gain won't be 0 dB. The gain would be 20 log K, not 0 dB. Okay. The shape would be right, but the gain itself won't be right. Okay. The high pass filter now. Capacitor, capacitor, resistor, resistor. Gain. Okay. So this is the silent key. Second order high pass filter. So the easiest way to do this is just design a low pass filter and interchange the resistor and capacitor. That's the easiest thing to do. If I ask you to do a high pass filter, just design a low pass filter and then interchange the positions of the resistor and capacitor. Now let's talk about transfer functions. A high pass filter. Let's go back to page 1. This is 10 dB ripple Chevy-Chef low pass filter with omega C equals 1 rad per second. How do we change the transfer function of low pass and the corresponding high pass? Where we see S, we put 1 over S. Usually we like to have the coefficient S squared on the bottom be 1. So we can divide top by 1.1025. That's plus 1.0797 divided by this coefficient. Okay. That would be the transfer function of high pass filter. 1.0 dB Chebyshev. High pass filter with omega C equals 1 rad per second. And then if we wanted another color frequency, where was the S divided by, we replace it by S divided by omega C.
Can you repeat that last line, please?
It's the same thing as with the low pass filter. Where you see S, replace S by S divided by omega C.
All right.
Dr. Cartwright, could you bring the paper down a little bit more?
What does the writing at the bottom say? 1 dB.
Chevy Chef high pass filter with omega C equals 1 rad per second.
You said we changing S to what? What did you change S to?
What are you?
To go from a low to high. Possible.
Where we see S, replace it by 1 over S.
Okay.
Isn't that evident? Isn't that evident? Don't you see that becoming that? Don't you see that becoming that?
I like to double check.
No, you like you write down stuff without thinking about what you're writing down. That's what happens. All right. So that's high pass filters and low pass filters, second order. I will send you out later on today an assignment. This will be due on Friday, but not at noon, before noon. That's to stop you all from coming to my class late on Fridays. And you can have Wednesday's class to do it. So later on today, look for assignment from me. Any questions or comments? All right, have a good day.
Good day. You do.
Yes, sir.